Hey, what's up? This is Paul Solt from Super Easy Apps. Welcome back to this video. I'm going to be showing off some of the workflow in sort of this dev life video. And before I start, I've got my coffee. This is amazing coffee from Joe Bean. I've got their gin barrel-aged Don Roger coffee. I think it's from Nicaragua. It's great. And I didn't get any videos out last week because I hurt my back shoveling. So I got a little too gung-ho trying to shovel some really deep snow, and I ended up hitting the curb when I was trying to scoop, and that kind of tweaked something. So I've been sort of slowly recovering from that, but I felt good enough to sit down and do a video, and I want to show you sort of the process. We're trying to get this new release ready, working on a few different apps. So besides the artwork app that I've been working on to try and update because Apple's removing it from the store in like a week, I've been trying to get a beta out for this app, and it's just been a slog because there's been a lot of little details to sort of tweak. So this is the app down here right below me, and it's a super simple timer app. It's only a single timer. I don't have multiple timers yet. It's just text-based, so you can type 20 minutes, 20M. You can just type 20. It sort of assumes that it's going to be in minutes. It's really convenient when I'm trying to write or work on something. I can even set a time. So let's say I have to teach class today at 5 p.m. I can see how many hours I have remaining until class. So I'm teaching at RIT, and that will sort of let me know when I need to leave. Now, I tend to need more time, so I probably should set it for 4:50 p.m. so that I can actually get out the door and get over to class without having to rush, especially since I hurt my back. I'm moving a little slower than normal. So this is a super useful timer. And I just want to go over, I'm sort of working through a code review. And in this video, I want to talk about what is called SourceTree and sort of Git, and how we're using Git flow to work on stuff. And then in the next video, I'm going to go into manuscript. And this is how we're tracking our current sprint, which I need to finish up. I'm a little behind on sort of finishing this up, but we've been trying to do sprints from Wednesday to Wednesday, and we've done a 2-week sprint, and I want to do another cleanup sprint. So we'll get into that in the next video. But if you've never worked with source control, this is really useful when you're working on a team project. And you can see these are different branches. We've been working on new features. And so what you're going to see are these dots are sort of commits. That's when we're making changes to code. And if I click on these, you can see that there's different code changes going on here. And we've been tagging different versions. So I think the last version we had with beta testing was 1.08, and really haven't done anything. That was back in December when Luke was working with me, and now I have Eric working with me. And so we've been working on some new features and just bug fixes, a lot of refinement, and we just had to do a lot more polish to sort of get this app a little bit more usable while I'm still dog fooding it and making sure it's still working. So I want to go over some of sort of the code review practices that I'm doing. So right now I'm going to check out this Parser Leading Fix, and what we have here are some changes that Eric has been working on, and I'm just going to select those using the command key, and this is going to show me all of the code files that he's modified. And I had him merge in the latest from develop so that we can just make sure that everything is sort of stable. And so that's what that top merge is. And so he's been working on this branch. It was called Parser Leading Fix. And this was an issue where and I'm currently on develop, so it should still be an issue. If I were to write sub and it was like an invalid thing or some invalid word, and I say 30 minutes, it would parse that correctly as 30 minutes. And we don't want that because it's kind of an error, and it should error. So if I type something, let's type a buggy. So if I type buggy or something like that, and I press enter, it should shake the window to sort of say, okay, that's not right. And ideally, we would have a sound effect. I don't think we have one going right now, but that would be good to go as well, because you want something visual, and then you also want something audible, because that will help people who have disabilities understand what's going on in your application. We still do need to add accessibility features. We haven't done that. That's probably going to be hopefully one of the remaining things that we add. I'm basically trying to keep a list of all these. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I've got a features list of things that we've fixed, and I've got some bug fixes that we've fixed, and then I'm also keeping track of some potentially new features, and I would say accessibility is one of those that we need to add. And sound on invalid parse. So those are just features that are going to make our app easier to use for someone who maybe can't see and they still want to use it. Right now, it's not set up with those features. And Apple provides a lot of stuff to make it so that we can make apps that are very accessible both on iOS and on Mac right here. So that's really neat. I'm using multi-markdown and markdown format to keep track of stuff. I can sort of show this in a web preview, so you can sort of see, this is my sort of log of what I've been working on, but I'm working on just some release notes that I can include with the application, something that I could post on a blog post or something like that. So that's that. But let's just jump into a code review of figuring out, okay, what has changed and do I see any problems? So I'm going to be looking through this code, and this is the first time I've actually done this with this particular code, and I like to sort of start here in SourceTree so I can sort of see what changed. By selecting these changes, I can see everything that has changed here, and we can sort of see what's going on here. So it looks like Eric added some fixes in here and a new function to just make sure the word is valid first. And so we've got this function that is checking that. So this is a file that I might jump into. We've also got some storyboard changes. I'm not sure exactly what these were related to. There were some keyboard shortcut fixes, so maybe he modified something in here, changing the height of something. So if I want to sort of see what he changed, I would select just this one and this, sort of the start of this branch, which is going to be this sort of line that we're seeing, and ignore. And this will show me exactly what he changed because there was some other stuff in there. Oh, and it doesn't look like, it looks like those changes were just because he merged in develop, and develop was ahead of him. So that's what we were looking at. So if I just want to focus on this, I can look at this. And now the other nice thing is that we've been using unit testing, and we have stuff that can test our parser, which is super useful so that I don't manually have to check this to make sure that it's working every time. And so let's jump over to Xcode to sort of see where things are at. And I'm going to just check out his version of, it looks like they cleaned up some branches. I went to Parser Leading Fix. So if I double click this, I can check it out. And then over in Xcode, we should see the project. And what I want to look at are the tests. So being able to run those tests, and we might have all of our tests currently in one file. So this would be something that would be nice to sort of refactor out and clean up a little bit. But for now, it's giving us some code coverage, which is super nice. And what we're going to see in here is that we've got some tests here that he added that should test invalid keywords. So I'm going to do Command U to run the unit tests. If I go to product, there is the test option. So that's Command U. And what I should see is that all of our tests should be passing in this current version. So that's sort of one of the requirements. We got to make sure that this is passing before we merge back into develop. And so we merged changes from develop into this because there was changes to the storyboard file. And anytime you're changing storyboard files, it gets really messy and hairy. We're trying to add some keyboard shortcuts, and those go all over the place with our interface file. So it's building it right now. I'm not sure why that's taking so long, but let's give that a second. Yeah, it's good coffee. And it was really good because I made chocolate biscotti, and I've been doing vegan chocolate biscotti, and this last batch was amazing, except I slightly toasted it, but it went so well with this coffee this morning. And now we're out, and I have to make a new batch this weekend if I want more. It was a peanut butter chocolate biscotti, so it was awesome. All right, so test succeeded, or build succeeded, but it didn't run my test. So let me just check to make sure. I'll just do Command U again. And okay, it looks like we got a test failed. And so why is that? What is it testing? You can also get to the tests here. So if I do a long press, I can run this and I can make this the default action for this button if I wanted to. And it's failing for some reason. So I'm going to look at the build log. And okay, so I'm not sure what's going on. I'm going to just quit the simulator. I'm going to quit Xcode and try and open up Xcode again, see if that fixes this issue. I'm not entirely certain why it wouldn't work. And I'm going to try and retest it. It looks like it's not connecting to the app. And what I'll do is I'll copy this error message and we'll go over here and search for something. And I've got some keywords that are related to my thing, so I need to get rid of those in this search. Try that one more time. Okay, so this one, someone's having an issue with Fastlane. I'll try a clean build. So we'll just do a clean, build it. I actually, I don't know if, I think I did run this already. Yeah, I think the timer we were just looking at was the actual one. So I don't know what's going on here, but this is sort of a typical thing when you're working on an app and just running it. It should run. If it doesn't run, then I've probably got another problem to investigate. So here's the timer app. And if I want to test it, all right, so it's not running my tests. And so if this is like a problem with this branch, one of the things that I could check is just going back to develop and see if the develop latest will work. So I'll just switch branches by double clicking here. We'll go back into Xcode. That will change the code. I'll clean it and I'll try and test with develop. So if develop's having a problem, then that means that potentially I might need to restart my Mac. Or there's another underlying issue that is not addressed. And it's been a while since I actually physically ran the test. So it looks like this is not working great. So this is not good. But I am happy that we got some new tests in here for this new parsing issue, because this is something that's bothered me. Is it shouldn't work for certain situations. So at least we're getting some code coverage there. I'm not sure why it's not working on my end. I can dive into the project settings for the tests. And so right now it's set up to go to the host application. So maybe I just want to disable this. And this will make it so that it's more of a unit test and it won't try to link up, but it's not going to find any of the source files. So in order to make this switch to see if this will fix my problem, I will need to go into build phases and make sure that this actually compiles more sources. And this might be a little gnarly depending on what we're actually instantiating in this unit test. I need the parse down, countdown timer, the dummy timing delegate, settings manager. I need a lot of things. End time struck. Looks like that's the main stuff. So what I could do is just find some of those files. Looks like I might need this file, timer GUI delegate. So I just have to find which files these are in. User defaults. And I just have to keep adding these. So this is the other way. This is going to make the test run faster so they don't actually need to open up the application. And I'll just try and compile that one more time. Settings manager. Looks like I need to import settings manager. I think I missed that one. Can type some filters, build again, sort of see what the normal build's going to work, but we have to do Command U to get this to run. Okay, so I'm wondering if we're missing the parser. Not exactly sure what's going on here. Parse duration. So let's see where this is defined. Class parse duration. So let's see if that's been added. I don't see it in the list. So let's find parse duration. I'm not trying to add everything because some of this is UI related. And right now I don't want to test all of that. I want to focus this on. Okay, so it looks like I need the sound manager maybe. I'm not sure how much of this stuff is like tied to each other. That's the other thing. So let's try and get that sound manager in here. And so that was a linker error due to the sound manager not working. And then we've got, what is this one? We've got some sound player. It looks like I might need sound player as well. So it's doing some name mangling, so it makes it a little hard to read, but this is sound player. So I'll need that as well. So we're just jumping through a bunch of hoops. Because code's sort of all over the place. And this was just using the default unit testing template. So here the unit test passes. So that's kind of a good sign that this is working here. But for some reason, if I switch to the other mode, now let's see, if I switch back, will it allow me? That's a little buggy. Can't hit that checkbox. Now I can hit the checkbox. So just clicking on and off allows me to do that. We can see if we can dynamically link to it, and that's where it was failing before. And so now it's still failing in this situation. So I'm not exactly sure why it's doing that, but that's something that I'll have to investigate. Now let's just jump back to the code review since I know that all the tests just passed. So that was a good thing. So if we turn this off, this is going to stop the dynamic linking. We'll go ahead, run the test. We should be able to at least see that these tests are passing. So that's a good sign. The next question is, will the test pass when I check out the other thing? And I think I'm going to have to restart my Mac in order to see if I can get this to work with the new build. But what we could do is we could do some manual testing And if I uncommit these changes, so now I'm going to have some local changes that I just want to either stash or something. So I might just stash these. It's going to be a project change, so this is going to be hard to merge back in. But just to save them, so I can have a list of the files, I could say debugging unit test dynamic linker failing, and we'll stash those. And so now that allows me to now jump back to this branch commit. And so we were just over here on develop, and now I'm jumping back in here. And again, this isn't going to work, and potentially I might be able to apply these changes, but if we both modified the project file, that's going to make this a little bit challenging and get merge conflict. So if we try and run the unit tests, we're going to see that this went back to the default setting. On this branch, there are no sources added to the unit tests, and it's still failing. What I can try is that stash. So if I click on this and I do double click to apply, I don't want to delete it. And we'll see if that worked without conflicts. And then we'll jump back in here. And if we click on our project again, it's reloaded. We now see those changes. So now I can run the unit tests. All the tests succeed. So that's a good sign. And if we jump over to our unit testing target, we can jump into some of these new unit tests that Eric went ahead and added. And I can go run the app again just so that we can confirm some of these. So what was really happening is we watched someone in our usability test type sub as like a shorthand version of subtract, which isn't really a common thing. And then they wrote like 20 minutes, and it caused 20 minutes to actually apply, which is not what we want. And so Eric went ahead and fixed that issue, and you can see he added tests just to confirm that having a invalid word will prevent the thing from parsing correctly, which is kind of the behavior that I wanted. We also had to fix some stuff with default parsing. AM and PM were defaulting to parsing as 12 AM. So if you just typed A or AM, it was making it go to 12, but I want it to be more explicit. So we went ahead and fixed that. So those are some of the fixes in this branch, I believe, and most of it is just on this invalid word. So the last thing I want to do is just sort of jump into that code. And if we come over into here and we go back to SourceTree, we can really identify what was changed. And so if I jump into, I want to see the history. I want to see this change and this change. And this will give me the starting point. So the code that he changed was in parse duration. So I can open that up and I can see approximately where this stuff is. So he added a function to the very bottom. He added some new logic. And so let's just jump in and see how that code looks in Xcode. So parse duration is our parsing logic for time values. And it's actually, it's grown in size as we've added sort of more features and stuff like that. But thankfully, we do have some unit tests that are helping us see what changed. Now in Xcode, I can switch over to the version control tab, and I can hide these other panels. Oh, I did the wrong one. So let's go back here. And now what I can do is I can jump back in time. And let's go back to this one. And this one might show us some of the differences. So these are the changes that were recently applied. If I jump back further, I would see other changes that we have in here. So this was our AM PM fix. I don't want that one. I want this one, which is the previous one. And you can figure out which one to jump into using SourceTree. So in SourceTree, I should be able to see the commit version and at least the starting point. So I think we're seeing the E8 and then the 3C. So in Xcode, we should see this is the, and this, the E8 is the latest. And then actually, I don't even see the other one. So I'm not sure exactly where that one is, but we just wanted to step back in time. And this one also includes the date, which is useful. so I can sort of see what was different. If I wanted to, I could switch this over to develop, and I could sort of see how this compares to the current version of develop. And it's actually not selecting a commit. So I'd have to click on the latest one from develop. So this was the last time we made a change to this file, and that'll give me the one that I want. And as we scroll down, we can see that it's going to look at all the words, and our words are defined. So we can sort of jump to this definition. So we're trying to parse the words to seconds. So that's what's coming into this function. And then it's just checking to see if it convert this word to a number. If it's nil and the word is not valid, and we jump down to here, you can sort of see what's going on here. And the not valid, where did it jump to? It didn't quite jump all the way. So is it seconds? Is it minutes? Is it hours? Is it add? Is it remove? And so we've got some keywords in here. And if we jump into this one, jump to definition, is add. So we've got some constants here. So our parser constants are going to be here. If I jump into this, we're going to see all of the add strings. It's not jumping quite to the right spot, but if we jump down here, this is what the parser is matching against. And so these are all the words that are valid sort of syntax. So I can say add 30 minutes, and that will do something like that. If I reset this to just 60 minutes, and I do add 30 minutes, we'll see that we can plus 30 minutes to go up to about 2 hours. We can subtract 1 hour, and we can see that that updates as well. So we got a few different keywords there for parsing and the different sort of abbreviations that we support. All right, so that's a little bit about doing kind of a code review. Everything's sort of like looking like it's checking out. We just got some kind of issue with my setup with it not building against the unit tests, and that one little fix that I did to sort of disable the dynamic linking, which is the default behavior of unit tests, has caused this to work. We can see that all of our unit tests pass. We can see how long they take to run. So 0.7 seconds. And so then if I want to figure out, okay, why is this slow? It looks like we might be having a sleep command or something in one of these tests. So that's where I could sort of dive in and see if I could fix any of these up. Some of them might be hitting the file system. Test performance, that looks like that's something I don't want. So this might be something to remove. And this is a default test. So we can sort of see this is absolutely doing nothing, and it's wasting, was it 300 milliseconds? 323 milliseconds I'm wasting on this empty test that is a default test from Apple. Get rid of this because it's going to slow down your main unit test. It's not required. It's just a performance hog because it actually runs this loop like 10 times and then does an average and has to set everything up and tear it down like multiple times. It's super slow. Don't do it. All right, so that's it for this sort of dev update. I know this one went a little long. We ran into a problem with the unit tests that we have in Super Easy Timer, but you can sort of see how we're working with SourceTree. In the next video, I want to talk a little bit about our manuscript stuff and how we're working with that, going through some of the process of closing out some of the action items that I have open, and I'll see you in that video. All right, so I'll catch you in the next one.